Good afternoon, everybody. I am Donna Smith with Progressive Democrats of America. I am the chair of the National Advisory Board. Our executive director, who you normally would see on Sunday afternoon, Alan Minsky, is out really not feeling well at all. Alan has pushed himself to the point of, I think, exhaustion and probably picked up some pretty nasty bugs traveling back and forth, and also his mother died very recently. And I think I can speak for an awful lot of us who've gone through it. Not only is your mother passing away hard, no matter what the relationship was there, but also the first Mother's Day that you really realize that your generation is the next one up. It's a hard to lose the person who brought you into the world is tough. So if you have a few moments today to send some good vibes, Alan is suffering with a bad cold and not feeling good. Send some vibes Alan's way so that he can know that we were all thinking about him today. We have a wonderful show today for you. I know it's Mother's Day. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and tell you what the show is going to be about. We're going to hear from a young woman who is going to become a congresswoman in Illinois very soon, Chuy Garcia. And then a little later on, we're going to hear from a young man who wants to become and will become a state legislator in Northwest Indiana, Scott Houldieson. So I'm excited about the show, but I also want to talk a little about Mother's Day. Many of you know I'm the mother of 6, grandmother of 15, great-grandmother of way too many to speak about. And if I talk about what Mother's Day means to me, does the family do some of the commercial remembrances? Yeah, of course. The kids call, the grown children call, and you get cards, and if you're real lucky, a flower. One of my kids was smart this year and sent me one that was knitted instead of alive. Flowers are not my forte, but I am also very aware that the original purpose behind Mother's Day was to promote peace in the world. And PDA has always been, Progressive Democrats of America has always been about promoting peace. In fact, our late executive director, the founder, Tim Carpenter, his first protests really were standing with signs asking for peace on his street corners near where he lived in Southern California at the time. And that was the very humble beginnings of this organization. And Mother's Day had those beginnings too. That mothers around the world wanted it known that we don't want our children, the people we brought into the world, we don't want them killing, and we don't want them learning to kill. And I think that is a message we need to reassert around this day, mothers especially. Not in a way that's I told you this or it should be this way if you were thinking about other people, but one that educates people, one that lets people know that the original purpose was peace. And it still holds for me. I don't want any other mother's child killed in war. I just don't. I believe that banner behind me, healthcare, not warfare. And because I believe it, and I'm gonna pass it off real soon to a wonderful young man who can carry forward the conversation. But because I believe in PDA so much this week, and I can't do much because physically I have some problems, like we all do at this age, I held a kind of a pop-up voter registration thing in my community room at my apartment building. It was nice to have a state rep candidate stop by. Iris Halprin is her name. Stopped by and chatted with some people, and we got a few people registered. That was nice. We also held, and I wrote an article that's posted on Common Dreams, we also held a rally to demand that the Medicaid cuts be fixed, reversed. We talked about in Gabe Evans' district here in CD8 in Colorado, where Gabe Evans is the misrepresentative. He's not representing the people there. 43% of the children are covered by Medicaid, and almost a third of the overall population in his district are covered by Medicaid. And when he was asked, why did you vote to cut Medicaid? His answer was it was cost saving measures. Cost saving. I don't think any other mother's child is cost saving. I don't think any mom is cost saving. I think we all matter so much. And I know you do too. I know you're waiting for Positively Progressive to come back. It will be. I'm recording a couple of things that I think are going to be really fun and exciting. One where a friend who's an activist wrote a song about an anti war song that's beautiful. The song is really titled, What If We Called a War and Nobody Showed Up? She needs to tighten the title, but that's okay. Um, on this wonderful Mother's Day, a day to remember peace and to think about peace around the world and not killing any more people in Iran or the Middle East or in Gaza or Ukraine. You know, if I could pray to a being, and I do, the peace needs to come. That's what I want for Mother's Day is peace, peace on earth, really. So with that, I want to throw it to a wonderful young progressive Democrats of America leader. William Walter is sitting in Wisconsin, which is one of my favorite places on earth. I will admit I like Door County and Sheboygan best. William, over to you.
We do love Door County, but Donna, please don't mention Door County. That's our little secret spot. We don't want to be giving away the game here. The cherries are fantastic, but
Oh my God. Yes. See, I'll
the
have to.
resources in the wild Wisconsin wilderness is one of a kind. So first and foremost, yes, I want to give a big shout out to all the moms out there. We know that mothers truly make the world go round. They are the backbone of our communities, of every community. Um, and if we're going to have this conversation, we need to be brutally honest as well on the hundreds of thousands, millions of hours of free labor that mothers are providing, not just to their household, but to, again, to their community when they're out volunteering at their children's schools, when they're out leading events, when they're bringing snacks and goodies to soccer practice. We genuinely wouldn't have the vast majority of the nice things that we take for granted if moms weren't behind the scenes pushing for those benefits to not just help their children, but to help everybody's children and to help make our communities as happy and healthy as possible. So happy Mother's Day to everyone, and thank you to the moms out there for making our lives so much better than they would otherwise be without you. We all love you.
The lovely boy you are. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. And unfortunately, though, what I want to take my time to discuss is, of course, in my opinion, the biggest story of the week, which was the Virginia Supreme Court rejecting the will of over 3 million Virginia voters who had voted to approve new maps for the upcoming election cycles. The vote total was about 52-48% in favor of redistricting, a proposed constitutional amendment that read as, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections, while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census. Over 105,000 voters in Virginia more sided with the yes vote than the no vote, yet the Virginia Supreme Court decided that the process was unconstitutional and overrode it. It's tough. I want to sit here and be able to speak positively or say something that we could take from this without being brutally honest about how ugly this situation is. But I'm gonna take some wise words that I heard from the great Mike Fox beforehand that is completely accurate, reminding me that this just shows that nobody is coming to save us. The institutions are not going to protect us. The system will not protect us. All we have is each other. We have one another. We have solidarity with other like-minded progressives all around the country who are not only expecting but demanding a more just and equitable country for all of us. And the only advantage that we have over the powers that be is our numbers. And we do outnumber them. We outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1. We know this. Every time we're outdoor knocking, every time we're talking to people in our community, every time we're volunteering, we are hearing just how many Americans agree with the world that we want to create here in the United States and eventually abroad. But unfortunately, we can't get to that world unless we start getting better progressives into elected office. It's an unfortunate chicken or the egg situation, right? You can't enact good policy unless you get good officials elected. You can't get good elected officials. You can't get elected officials into office unless you enact good policy. So what's going to be the domino that first falls? I think that really comes down to organizations like PDA. We're the ones that are fighting to be that first that first spark, let's call it, that turns a moment into a movement, that ignites this energy and inspires millions of Americans to get behind the promise that better is not only possible but inevitable. We are going to do that. We will make that happen. And it starts with all of you. It starts with phone banking. It starts with introducing your friends and your family to the elected officials that we need in office, endorsing great candidates all around the country, getting out there and doing the work. It's cliche, I know, and it's hard to say that after we saw in Virginia that we did just go out and do the work. We won an election, and then the court still overturned it. So what do? We have to make our voices so loud and so clear, so concise as to what we expect, with such a massive numerical advantage that the system has no option but to bend to our will. And we will continue to fight for that better tomorrow, because we know it's the only option that we have. I'm not going to give up. I know the people of Virginia aren't going to give up. So I hope that none of you will give up as well. And that starts with calls on Sunday every week to get together and remind each other that we will always have our back. The system won't, we will. And until that changes, until the system is able to follow through on the promise of a better tomorrow, we're going to be the ones that are going to have to continue pressuring it to do so. So that wraps up what I wanted to discuss today, Donna. I did want to make a brief joke, of course, about I'm not a particularly religious individual, but because you mentioned worship, if anybody saw the 22-foot golden statue that was just revealed at Trump's Doral Miami golf course, I believe, with a blessing session where the lead pastor quite literally stated, "This is not a golden calf. We only worship one Lord," as the camera pans back to the ginormous golden calf right behind him. You can't make it up. Satire is dead. But that also, as more and more of these situations continue to occur, there are going to be millions of Americans who see this as the line in the sand. Perhaps, the illusion was so deep and profound that they couldn't break free of it, and it took that one moment of clarity for them to finally see, like, wait a minute, something's not right here. This is weird. This is wrong. Why am I doing this? And I know, at least in my neck of the woods, I have had quite a few 3-time Trump voters who mentioned that to me. Not saying that, they're going to leave the cult because of this, but essentially saying, like, yeah, low key, that was kind of blasphemous. And they thought that as well when he posted that AI image of himself healing the sick a few weeks ago, right? Like, maybe that was what kind of put the little crack in the mirror, and this is what this was the little bit of the dam finally breaking. But this is going to continue happening every single day as more and more people suffer under the crushing weight of Donald Trump and Republican Party policies. And it's going to be our job as progressives to bring them into the fold, to show them that, no, we are advocating for a world that will help you as well, that is going to fight back against the interests of corporations, the rich, the powerful, and the oligarchs. And we are going to create the kind of community every single one of us can be proud to call home. Please join us. That's the fight that inspires me, knowing how many more people are coming into our or under our tent, let's call it, every single day. And that's why I wake up every morning is to continue with that fight. So I'm going to pass it on to the great Mike Fox. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this wonderful Mother's Day. And let's have a great show.
You rock, William Walter. You put a spring in my step. Now, speaking of overcoming, technology is being a challenge for me today, so you ain't going to see me. But in any event, I feel all of you. I hope you hear me. Am I coming through okay? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. All right, very quickly, because we've got Patty, who we originally needed to have on camera in 1 minute. So I'm going to try to make this a minute. To-dos, bam, number one, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. Every Sunday we're here. We got some pushback this week on, hey, this is Mother's Day. Why are you doing this on Mother's Day? Why? Because MAGA's money works 7 days a week. That's why. And we are loving our mothers out there by doing this work, and we are honoring them by doing this work. So here's the work we got to get done today, gang. Get out your notepad. Number one, we're going to be tossing into the chat a pro-peace letter that we want everybody on this call signing. Okay, it's a resolution letter that got started by our Arizona folks. It's going nationwide. Congress people are jumping on, and we need everybody on this call to be signing it. So keep your eyes peeled on the chat. I'll be dropping that link in just a second. Number two, our Progressive Democrats of America California group is going to be having a big statewide call 1/2 hour after this wraps. So everybody in California, Mike is dropping a link into the chat right now. We need you on that call. Big news about elections in California. It is open to anybody on this call, but especially California groups, California folks, you got to pile on that, okay? Number three, phone bank. We've got elections literally on Tuesday, the following week, and all this month in June. It's primary madness right now, and we got to have everybody on the phone, okay? pdamerica.org/volunteer. Make it happen. Lastly, treasure. On this call, our primary goal is solidarity. It's not a big dollar volume. It's if everybody on this call can just toss in $1, we're showing solidarity with each other that way. If you can make it monthly, wonderful. Our goal for this call will be 10 new monthly sustainers. I underline, we take great pride in the fact that the majority of our work here at PDA is done by volunteers. It's just the way it ought to happen. Individuals engaged in civic activity, right? But we do have to keep the lights on. So if you'd toss a few pennies in the tip jar, that'd be a beautiful thing. We'll be back at the top of the hour to see where we're at on our goals. Now let's get to Patty. Donna, your introduction.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was fast. I don't know if I could do that. Anyway, I am so honored to be able to introduce our guest today. Patty Garcia is in the state that I was born in. I was born in Illinois, in Berwyn, Illinois, and my father was born in Oak Park. So I have a long history with Illinois, and also Wisconsin is a great part of the state. And you're a Fighting Illini, Patty. You have a degree from University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, so that's pretty cool. On the serious note, this woman is running a great race, but she needs to win. So we want to really give her some lift. She is running in the seat that Chuy Garcia previously held. I was blessed enough to introduce Chuy at a long ago People's Summit that was held in Chicago. This was before he was a congressman. So that's been a few years ago. And, you know, it's not easy to run right at the moment. It definitely is not easy to run. And I don't care if you're in a state that you think of or a place that you think of as being very progressive and very open. I live in Colorado now, so I know I'm around progressive people a lot, but the energy in the country has changed. There's a lot of contention in a lot of people. I don't know whether it's post-pandemic. Part of it's just the constant onslaught of trauma from this federal administration. And so we need leaders. We need leaders who are willing, first of all, to step into this environment, which isn't easy, folks. It isn't an easy environment. If you think we are traumatized, imagine the human beings and how strong they have to be. And Patty is that. So with that, I want to give Patty the floor so she can share whatever. Thank you for being here so early, and share whatever you would like to share today. And then if you're available, we'd like to be able to ask a few questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Deb, for having me on. Thank you, PDA. Happy Mother's Day, of course. I'm a proud daughter of immigrants from Mexico, daughter of a labor member, sister of a labor member as well. So I grew up in a union home filled with strong values, right? And so coming from a working class community and a union home, we had to fight for everything. And we also always remember to give back to others, right? Any little that we were able to advance, made sure that we always paid it forward and gave it back. And so that's been my trajectory all along. I've a proud product of the Chicago Public Schools, from pre-K to my PhD, public schools all the way. Did go to U of I. I was very blessed to have so the support of my family, the support of great state programs and student loans that enables me to be able to to have 3 degrees from U of I. But look, when I graduated and at 25 with a PhD, I came back home and I couldn't find a job. We were dealing at that point of, and if you remember, you think back in 2011, 2012, we were at the height of the housing market crash, right? We were seeing the impact of that everywhere. And so it didn't matter that I had a PhD. It didn't matter that I had, 2, 3 degrees. It was hard to find a job. And so I'm very blessed, life redirected me in a different way. And I found a home in a campaign. And in particular, a campaign against the Chicago machine. We were working with a progressive community leader whose father was assassinated precisely because of his beliefs, of his progressive beliefs. They worked to help elect Chicago's first Black mayor, first reform mayor, Harold Washington. And so that's where I come from. I come from a strong progressive movement, an independent movement that said the government and system is not set up for us, but we're going to keep fighting to ensure that we make it work for us, that we elect people from our community, that pass progressive legislation, and that we're also mobilizing people along the way. And so now, fast forward, right? Those values are the values that I continue to bring with me as a staffer. The last 15 years, I've spent my entire life doing voter education, civic engagement, everything from citizenship to voter registration to protecting the ballot box and ensuring that we're getting people to also run, right? And so everything from building power through the electoral work, through building the bench. I've been doing that the last 15 years, and I've had a great experience. I've had the honor of working with Congressman Chuy Garcia. My first campaign was with him in 2011. And although we didn't win, I decided to use my education degree for campaigns and politics. I found a home there. And so with Congressman Garcia, the last 7 years in particular, I have had the honor of serving as his district director and chief of staff. And so that meant ensuring that whatever legislation we were pushing for at the federal level in DC was informed directly from the community, that nothing made it to DC without the input of the community, and that we were using a shared decision-making process. And as we were looking for grants and different programs, we were going and meeting with the community members to ask them, what would you like to see in your area? And so I'm grateful to say and proud to say that we've been able to secure billions of dollars for Illinois, for infrastructure, for flood mitigation, for flood prevention, for hospitals, for healthcare centers, for schools, right? Investing directly in our communities. But that only happens when you have people fighting for you at the table, fighting for you behind the scenes, and ensuring that you're also connecting and listening to community members. And so that's what I've been doing the last 7 years. And it hasn't been alone, right? It hasn't been just with the congressman's office. Coming from our progressive coalition, in the last 40 years, Congressman Garcia and our multiracial, multi-generational coalition has helped elect over 25 individuals. We helped elect the first Asian American to the state legislature. We helped elect the first former undocumented woman to the county board. We helped elect the youngest Democratic legislator at 23 years old. We've helped elect the first Latina countywide, right? We've helped elect the first Latina in the entire Midwest to serve in Congress. That was Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. And so now, we're continuing to do that work, continuing to organize and bringing that same fight from the streets and the community into the halls of Congress. And that's what I intend to do because, we have to make sure that government is working for our people. And in where we're at right now, just so they have a little bit of background on the race. Yes, this is a strong Democratic district. However, to your point, we need to make sure that we are organizing, we're educating, and that we get people out to vote. There's a direct attack on our communities, in particular to the Black vote, to the Latino vote. They are trying to do away with voting rights. They're trying to do away with the voting rights district. This district was created thanks to the Voting Rights Act over 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago. So right now, our campaign, we're in a great position. We have over 140 endorsements, 40 from labor and organizations, including PDA. Thank you to PDA. We have over 90 elected officials as well that have believe in our movement, and we're working with them. So everything from school board members to city council members, state legislators, water commissioners, you name it. We've got everybody on board because we intend to continue working in a coalition. But the stakes are high. What we saw this primary play out in Illinois, if you were watching, and I'm sure you saw it in different places like New Jersey, right? Big money in politics, special interests trying to buy our congressional seats. In Illinois alone, they spent nearly $30 million. And by they, I'm meaning special interest, corporations, your crypto groups, your AI groups, APAC, all of those groups. And those are all groups that I will not be taking any money from, because for me, at the end of the day, is ensuring that we're listening to the people. That's who I want to represent, the people of this district. And so I'm here, to kindly ask for your support, right? We have still a battle because there are people that want to buy the seat. There are folks trying to run as independents to be able to buy the seat. They see the transition from Congressman Garcia to now a woman, right? And they want to take a shot at us. And so I kindly ask for any support, whether it's, the ability to phone bank, spread the word, share our message, share our items on social media. Know that, in the fight that we've been seeing here at the local level, everything from people struggling to pay for medication, struggling to pay for rent, ensuring that we've got people covered on health coverage, regardless of their zip code, regardless if they work. All these things that we're fighting for here at the local level, those are the things that I intend to continue to advocate for in DC. And it's not going to be easy. We're coming in under an administration that is intentionally trying to dismantle every single protection, every single right, and every single program, right? They've done it through congressional action. They've done it through the courts, and they're doing it through the agencies. They're dismantling the agencies. They're firing federal workers, right? And they're using their friends, their billionaire buddies to amplify this message, because at the end of the day, what they care about is their pockets, lining up their pockets. And so for me, I want to go to Congress to make sure that we've got someone there that's advocating for our community. In terms of my priorities, number one is immigration. Being the daughter of immigrants, representing a district where 1 out of 3 people are immigrants, that has been the punching bag of Donald Trump since 2018 and 2019. That to me is number one. I've got neighbors and family members who have been waiting, who have been in line, how they were told, for 20, 30 years, who've raised people who are doctors, who are teachers, right? Who are saving our communities, who are protecting one another, yet they don't have protection themselves. They can't go home when someone passes away, right? They can't go back to visit family members. I mean, sometimes they can't even travel to another state. And so I've seen those stories, and I've seen the impact, in particular this last year, of the enforcement activity, right? One of the cases that I've been working on is Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. This man was killed dropping off his 2 kids at school. And I'll tell you that incident has completely transformed our communities. Anytime I drive through there, I think about him. My father worked in Franklin Park, in that area where he was killed. That could have been any of our fathers, our neighbors. And so the fact that we still have yet to hold anybody accountable for that clear assassination in broad daylight, where our taxpayer money is being used to terrorize our communities, to separate families, that to me is completely intolerable. And we've got to do something about it. So for me, immigration, number one, I've been very vocal about abolishing ICE from day one. I was a little bit more clear, and I said F ICE and pissed off a few folks. But that's not something I shy around. I've seen how terrible it has been. Instead of investing in our immigrant community, we've been invested in the terrorizing of our communities and criminalizing immigrants. And so immigration for me is number one. Number two, of course, is healthcare, right? Again, everyone should have access to healthcare. I'm supportive of Medicare for all. And I know that, again, that means bringing and taking out money out of politics, ensuring that we're holding insurance companies accountable, ensure that we restructure our healthcare system. We have to be able to leave a better world for our kids and take care of our seniors and everyone. And so those are some of the issues that right now we know are impacting our community. And it's really hard to say to children, to seniors, to families, sorry, the government says that they don't have any money, so we're going to be taking your food. We're going to be taking away all of your programs, but yet we've got money for war. That is completely hypocritical. And that tells you what the values of this administration is and are. For me, I've been very vocal around stopping endless wars, ensuring that we're not funding endless genocide in Gaza, in Sudan, in Congo, that our money does not go to that. We need to be investing in our community, and absolutely, we need to be pushing for peace, ceasefire, humanitarian aid. That's what we should be pushing for. And so know that I understand that there's a lot that we have to tackle on, but with my background, 7 years working in the congressional office, doing the political work as well, organizing our community, informing our community, I can hit the ground running on day one, right? There's no learning curve there. And we're going to need people in Congress that can rebuild our agencies, rebuild our programs, our services, that know how we have to operate. And there are things that we'll have to start from scratch that weren't working in the first place. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to really come together and change the structure of our government, but making sure that they work for our communities. I'll just close with this in terms of maybe you haven't heard about the race, right? But nonetheless, I think that the most important thing right now is that we're trying to build a movement here and continue the movement that we've come from for the last 40 years. And so that includes ensuring that we're organizing directly with our community members, continuing the legacy of our progressive organization, and ensuring that at the end of the day, we have someone in Congress that represents and advocates the interest of the people, not billionaires, not corporations, but the people. And so I'm happy to, I know that was a lot, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Just wonderful. I could listen to you. You're wonderful. You're just great. When I was a kid, Richard J. Daley was the mayor of Chicago. So you know what kind of machine I saw
Yeah.
when they're working. But tell us a little bit more about how one thing I'm hearing from voters is they're not just mad at the Republicans. They're mad at the whole system right now. They're mad at the Democrats too, because I feel like the Democrats could have been doing more. So how can you help us respond? I mean, I know how I respond, but I'd love to know how you would respond to a voter who says, I don't trust any of you anymore. I mean, that's part of the consequence sometimes.
Look, and I'll be honest, we've started to see some of that last year here in Chicago, actually 2 years ago with immigration, right? When you have people paying taxes, I mean, immigrants pay over $600 billion in federal, state, and local taxes, yet don't have protections, sometimes can't even get an official work permit. And so for them, they're like, well, Democrats keep saying they're going to pass immigration reform, but yet they're not. Right. So that frustration, I feel it, believe me. And in working as a staffer in Congress, I've seen it, and I've not been afraid to push back against colleagues, push back against other staff members, and equip, the congressmen to be able to go into some of these rooms and fight, because we cannot be on the sidelines. We cannot wait for any type of bipartisan support at this point. The reality is we have to be pushing bold legislation. We cannot wait. If there's anything that we've learned from Republicans being in office right now and being in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, is that they do not care about bipartisanship. They do not care. They do not care about having something balanced. And they are completely ramming through all this legislation without any consultation with Democrats. So I do believe that, and I'm hopeful that we'll take back the House in November, but we've got to organize that. If we do, and when we do, the next 2 years are critical. We have to inspire and keep people committed to what we're trying to do. And that means pushing back against any other reform from Republicans and using every tool in our toolbox, whether it's bringing in some guidelines, pulling in some audits, asking for appropriations checks, stop calling for reports of how funds have been used, right? Holding ICE officers accountable, calling for a complete stop of funding of ICE enforcement. So there's plenty that we can do right now to be able to demonstrate to people that we are the party that works for them. We are the working families party. We are the family values party, right? And it means that we have to be bold and we cannot be scared about leading intentionally and boldly.
Brilliant. I think a near neighbor of yours, Michael, is in Indiana, and he's going to ask you the next question. And then I think William Walter, who is in Wisconsin, is also going to be asked. So you have neighbors asking you things, and a hometown girl who asked you some things. So there you go, Mike. It's all yours.
Hey, Donna, happy Mother's Day. And
Thank
to
you.
Patty, so nice to meet you online. I got my start in politics in Chicago in the 15th Ward back in the 90s, working with Acorn and what we call the New Party. And obviously, Chuy Garcia was our guiding light back then as we dreamt big about taking on the second daily machine. And obviously, a lot's happened since the late 90s in Chicago politics, and a lot of it pretty good. So I guess my question for you is, twofold. I just was in Arizona last week working on a battleground state, a battleground congressional district. And so as somebody who is in a safe district in a very progressive city for the most part, but with divisions, how do you, as hopefully a member of Congress starting in January, how do we really build progressive solidarity inside Chicago's city limits, and then we have a tough mayor's race coming up, and what do we do to win these tough battleground districts where you're in a safe seat? How do we make sure that we that when you enter Congress next year that we have a strong, solid Bernie blue majority?
No, nice to meet you, Mike, and thanks for the question. So as I've said earlier, look, for me, of course, it would be an honor to serve and represent the 4th Congressional District in Congress, but it's beyond Congress, right? If there's anything we've learned right now, it's beyond just the policy work that we do. We have to be able to organize inside and outside, and that includes mobilizing our communities, mobilizing at the state and local level, targeting some school board races, targeting state and local seats, right? And what we're seeing right now play out on the voting rights piece alone, right? What we saw play out in Tennessee and Virginia, that should encourage us to go to neighboring states and help out. So I know for me, I'm already thinking ahead of, all right, once we get through our race in November, and simultaneously while we're doing that, what other states nearby can we help? I know that there's some opportunities to do work in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan. These are some of the core states that we've got to organize in, not just to be able to take back the House, but to be able to win back the White House in 2 years. And so I think it's important that members continue organizing. And I know that there's great members like Congresswoman Jaya Paul, Congressman Kassar, Congressman Rokana, who are hosting these like digital labs, civic labs, organizing training institutes. That's something that we've been doing informally for some time now here on the ground, recruiting volunteers who might have a little bit more time to be able to do work on campaigns, to train them on the mechanics of a campaign. Everything from how do you build a targeting list? What is a targeting list? How do you recruit people to run for office? And then, how do you win? Sorry, time to myself to ensure. How do you win an election? And how do you develop an agenda? And so I think a lot of it for me is investing not just in our candidates, but investing in the staff. And that's been one of the things that for me, I've been very intentional about ensuring that we're training our staff members so that they understand how government and the political side also kind of balance each other, and that when campaigns come around, we've got plenty of people that we can recommend for other campaigns. I think Chicago this year is going to be really interesting, as you mentioned. We've got in the summer. It'll be the start to the next cycle in terms of collecting petitions for the mayor's race and for all the other manic seats. But let's not forget the school board race. This will be the first time in Chicago's history that all 20, I think 25 seats are up for election. We've never had that in the history of Chicago. And there's very few urban cities across the US that have elected school boards. And those races are also very important because they make determinations around what education gets in front of kids, right? What vendors and how money is spent, who leads our classrooms and our entire public school system, what oversight and regulation do we put for private schools and charter schools, right? And so I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of some of those. And I know for us, we've seen in Chicago, we've seen in LA how some of these school board races, which are oftentimes volunteer roles, ends up becoming $1 million races. So
Yeah,
we
we
need
see that
them.
with the charter school money all
Yeah,
the time,
yeah.
just flooding in, and we had G2 Brown on our call a couple months ago, and so
Mhm.
we're a big fan of the progressive movement inside the public schools, and I guess lastly, last time I was actually knocking doors
Mhm.
in the district, I was there for Michael Rodriguez like
Oh,
a couple
Mike.
years ago, and for the alderman's race, and he helped us lead this one fair wage resolution
Yeah.
that would end the sub-minimum wage in Illinois or in Chicago, but hopefully eventually Illinois. Uh, and that's come under attack too, even right. So even these progressive
Hmm.
things that we fought for and won are under attack by billionaire money.
Yeah, and we're trying to push, I'm not sure you saw within the last 2 weeks, Congressman Garcia, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, and newly elected Congresswoman Ana Lilia Mejia from New Jersey, they introduced a federal minimum wage, now bumping that to 25. And so that's our next fight, right? And I know that there's other cities that are taking that on as well. But when the cost of living is growing and continues to grow, the right thing, the economically sound thing, but also the moral thing is to pay people what they deserve, right? And we're seeing how these corporations, I mean, they're making profit. They're making profit left and right. The CEOs are getting their bonuses. That's not being cut, right? So we have to make sure that we're pushing for these progressive legislation, but it starts with, of course, organizing and continue to organize year round. We want to make sure that, as we're building community, that people don't feel like we're only coming around every 4 years or every 2 years right before the election. If there's anything that we've learned from what's going on right now in Chicago with immigration is that we've got to organize year round so that in the case where we found ourselves with Operation Midway Blitz and seeing the Trump administration attacking us and sending agents out here, our local infrastructure, our organizing infrastructure was critical in transitioning them from civic engagement to rapid response, right? To ensuring that they were protecting their communities. And I think that for me, this is one of the biggest lessons from this past year, that we have to make sure that we're building and organizing year round and addressing some of the local issues beyond just, getting out the vote.
I'll let somebody ask a question, but you talk about the ICE raids, and here in my community, in our school district, we have a family whose father is from Sierra Leone and has been vanished into one of these hellscape detention centers, and so I know even in suburban Indianapolis, neighbors are coming together and fighting for our families that some of us don't really know each other right now, but right, so that's so important that we across the country in our neighborhoods are really getting to know each other and knowing the plight of what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And look, I'll tell you one of the things that I think for me, just despite all the crazy enforcement that we've seen, it was beautiful to see our community come together. It was beautiful to see whether it was mutual aid, trying to find safe places for people, right? Connecting them to resources, lawyers who have no background in immigration coming forward and saying, I want to help. I understand the law. I don't know immigration, but I understand the law. And seeing people from everywhere come together and say, we want to help. For me, that is why it's so critical that we sustain that movement, that we sustain this mutual effort where we're at right now. It's unfortunate that it's taken us to be in this situation to come together, but we cannot lose that. We cannot lose this unity that we've found, and I'm very hopeful that we'll continue to do that. I think on the one of the enforcement pieces right now. We just heard on the Silverio Villegas case that the man that was assassinated, finally, and thanks to the work of organizers, thanks to the work of local elected officials working across all levels, finally they're going to open up an investigation, right? It's we're more than half a year out and still had not opened up an investigation, right? And so I think that we've got to continue to work within our different sectors, but also help each other in connecting to resources to ensure that we're creating a safe space for people in our communities and advocating for them.
Well, hey, William, you want to, as our whatever co-host today, William, how's it going over there?
It's going well. The work never stops, especially in arguably the definitive 50-50 swing state in the country. We got a big gubernatorial coming up at the end of the year. We're hoping to win back the state senate and the assembly. I'm pretty confident we will. But if we do, and then of course retain the governorship, we have a chance to become one of the most progressive states in the country overnight. So that's what we're really excited for over here. Patty, you kind of touched on the question I was going to ask before. So I want to give you the opportunity to kind of like expand on that idea. I wanted to touch on, obviously, you have, as a young official, you have extensive background in education, let's call it, multiple degrees. What a lot of young people would love to follow through on, but perhaps with the student loan debt crisis going on, are afraid to pursue. How do we kind of bend the need to get our younger people more educated without setting them up to be, in debt for the rest of their life, but also incentivize them to build up the pipeline, this like campaign infrastructure that you mentioned? You might be the perfect example of someone who, you are extensively educated and then you got into politics, worked your way up in the system, seeing how it works behind the scenes before it was your turn to run. How do we get more people into this pipeline, young people who want to be engaged and involved, but perhaps are afraid of, how to get their foot in the door, or also struggling just to, pay rent, pay off their student loans, all of these other myriad factors that come into what is not, sexy work. Let's call it what it is. If you could go get a job in a sales position or something that they might not enjoy, but that makes good money, it's a lot easier to pay off your student loans, but then you're not fulfilling your passion and you're not able to pursue the healthier, happier tomorrow that you would like to see for everyone. How do we balance that?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Great question. I think, for me, as I shared earlier, having my start in volunteering on a campaign, and look, and I'll track back even further. I started organizing before I knew what organizing was. I was in high school during 9/11. And so, as you can imagine, and I went to a school that was about 30% Arabic. We had students from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and you can imagine the terror that their families were living in, and even the stereotypes that they had to deal with as students. And so, for me, that was my first exposure to the conflict in the Middle East, but also how our country was treating fellow classmates and civilians, and how they wanted to spend money on war instead of our country. And so I organized alongside my peers in high school around the war, against the war. And then when I got to college, continued to organize, doing voter registration, doing voter education. And of course it was hard. I mean, look, I get it from friends, I get it from family members who say, I don't care about politics. And so I've always been very patient. And I think that that's number one in terms of my recommendation. We have to be patient with people to try to understand what their perspective is and what'll move them, right? And so asking the right questions of, well, what do you care about, right? And so oftentimes I'll go through like a scenario from the time you wake up in the morning till nighttime. There's about 20 policies that have impacted your life, right? Whether it's been, can you get on a road? Can you access a community service? Can you drop off your kids? Can you have kids, right? Like, can you marry a partner? Like all these different policies. And so I think it's important that we connect with people and understand what will move them. But, working in politics is hard, and making a career in civic engagement and community building is hard. one of the things that I've been very intentional about, and I know that this is what moved me to stay in campaigns, is being able to merge both worlds, right? And so, yes, you can have a degree, but you can also volunteer in a campaign. You don't have to completely give up your entire career. You can also help. But it's been rewarding to be able to help people understand how they have a place in politics and a campaign, right? That whether maybe you don't like to do public speaking, maybe your specialty or your skill is data. We need people to do data. Maybe you don't like to do, door knocking and you want to do some social media. We need people doing social media, right? So there's a home for every single person and every single skill that they might have. And I think that we've got to do better of investing in our electorate. And what that means is investing in our volunteers, investing in our students, investing in our seniors. I mean, there's so many seniors right now that are approaching our campaign saying, I can't really door knock, but I can do some phone calls, or I can connect you to people that can door knock.
Or
Absolutely.
postcards, or there's
Yes,
millions of things you can do. We can merge these
absolutely. We have
individual
to be
interests.
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think with young people too, one thing that I have found, because I hear that all the time as well, I don't care about politics. They're apathetic to a system that they think wasn't built to support them, regardless of who wins. They see two wings of the same bird, or all those other analogies
Yeah.
that have been thrown around for years and years and years. What works for me is kind of pressuring them on who are the individuals that do determine what goes on in your life, like taking the next step on what you said, from what policies impact you,
Yeah.
what people impact you, your boss, your landlord, perhaps if they're fortunate enough to have parents who supported them through college or something, so that they
Yeah.
don't have massive amounts of student loan debt. All of these individuals are paying attention to politics. I guarantee your landlord cares about what's happening politically. I guarantee your boss cares about what's happening politically. Do you think they're doing that just to mess with you, or do you think they recognize the imperative? And for a lot of young people,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a moment to reflect, like, I always figured I'd just get into it when I'm older. I didn't connect the dots and recognize that people got into it because it impacts their lives, not because they're old and boring and have nothing else fun to do or anything, right? Like
Yeah.
this stuff genuinely matters. It genuinely impacts you in so many more ways than you would ever recognize. The argument could be made that everything is politics at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, or impacts your neighbors. Like, one of the things that I just love doing is going to talk in schools, talking to the next generation of leaders. And um, it can be a little nerve-wracking, right? Because you don't want to bore them. And so it's for me, I think it's a very high stakes moment of this is going to be could be their first real conversation about politics. I can't mess it up. I can't make it boring. I have to make it fun. I have to make them think. So I've done these interactive activities with them where we get in a circle. I ask a series of questions, kind of like a privilege walk and common ground. Comes from, my training and education. And I'll ask a series of statements. And I'll start with some easy ones of like, oh, I was able to walk to school with my parents, or my parents dropped me off, or I was able to drive to school. And then I'll get into more serious ones. Things like I'm able to select what food I want to eat, right? I can afford to pick what food I want to eat. That's really what we're asking, right? My parents can travel outside the country. My parents can vote, right? Like all these little questions. And you can see they start to kind of like get uncomfortable. The giggling stops and they're looking at each other because it makes them start to think about like, oh, I have different, and my peers have different experiences, and those experiences are impacted by policy, right? Those experiences are determined by other people. And so, I mean, we've gotten into these conversations of, you think it's okay that the government gets to determine, what's on your phone, who you get to eat, where you get to travel, whether or not you get to vote. And so it's being able to inspire them in that moment to question. And I think that for me, that's what has always inspired me, the ability to question. And once you reach that light bulb moment, okay, and so what does this mean? What do I need to do to fix this? Who do I need to work with? Who can I work with? Because I can't be the only one experiencing this or thinking about this. And so we've got to do more of educating our young generation, and the earlier the better, right? So that we can start them young.
And patience comes back into that too, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
going to work at their own speed, at their own level. That's a great example that you just used. These are all individuals from the same school that had different experiences.
Yeah.
Now, as they get older, perhaps it's when they go off to college or whatever, and they're starting to meet people who did come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And now they're saying, oh, even my school, as diverse as that may have been, was nothing compared to the totality of different experiences that we're all having. I didn't get involved until in politics until I was in college because of Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. That was the light bulb moment for me that you just referenced, where it was like, oh wait, maybe we can do something cool. We can do something better. But there are people who are organizing when they're in their early teens because it's what's interesting to them, or perhaps their parents or siblings or cousins are involved. There are people who don't get involved into their 20s. There are people who don't get involved into their 40s or 50s. We as organizers have to be patient and realize that everybody is on their own journey, but when they are ready to participate, we have our arms open and we will teach them what they need to know, and then we will let them, give them the freedom to flourish outside of whatever set parameters organizing might have had in the past.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey,
This has been fascinating,
we
you
have a
all.
couple
Fox is just jumping in here real quick because Donna had to leave. She was the person who was taking care of this. Her family yanked her away. And we know that. Patty, you've got a hard stop here in 4 minutes, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes.
And see, look at that. This is a woman who not only knocks it out of the park, but likewise has that right angles thing going on, gang. So many of our folks in the progressive movement, we do curves really well, but the right angles thing, hitting deadlines, etc. So good on you, sister, for that. I know we had a couple of people who wanted to ask questions, so let's do this. Can we get an email address that folks can send you or your campaign questions to? Does that work for you, Patty?
Yeah, I'm typing it up right now in the chat. It's a campaign at pattyforillinois.com, and I can stay for maybe another in addition to the 4 o'clock stop, maybe another 5 minutes just to make sure that we can get a few questions.
Fair enough. All right. The candidate note the candidate did that. I didn't. I tried to get her off the hook. Okay.
I'll just have to apologize to the next one.
Okay. All right. So, folks, if you got a question, make sure it's brief. 30 seconds or less, please. Raise your hand and the floor will be open for your question. Okay, we've already got those hands going up here. All right, let's get to Michelle first. Hold on a second, Michelle. I'm getting to you. Boom. You should be able to unmute, Michelle. What's your question? Type, please.
Yes, I was thinking about the desire to destroy the poor that I heard about recently, and how war, taking all our young people like they did during Vietnam, sending them off to war, as the poor ones particularly, all what they're doing to our poor immigrants right now, and then the push for more AI. It seems to me to all be going that direction. What is your take on all that?
So thank you for your question, Michelle. First on the AI piece. We are in very dangerous times as it comes to AI. I think we've got to find a right balance where we embrace certain technology, but not at the expense of people, and not at the expense of people's work, and not at the peril of people. We've heard from labor unions who are very concerned about where we're headed with the infiltration of AI in their sectors, whether it's content, right, and other materials. But it's been on the labor side that's been a big concern, and so know that for me, this is why it's so important that we push back around the influence of AI money in politics, and why we need more regulation. And I'll be a supporter of more oversight, more regulation.
Fantastic. Let's get to Thomas. You should be able to unmute. Mary Elizabeth, you're on deck. What's your question, Thomas? Thomas going once. Thomas going twice. We'll come back to you, Thomas. Mary Elizabeth, you should be able to unmute. What's your question, Mary Elizabeth?
Well, it's not really a question, but it's just a good for you, lady. That thing about what Patty just said about all her talks in schools and stuff. Remember, I'm a preacher's kid. One of my favorite Old Testament verses is a wise teacher makes learning a joy. And it sounds like
Very
she's
true.
doing it. I'm not into politics all that much, but I do know it. I'm into arts and crafts, but I do know it governs a whole lot of, what we do and have. So
Thank you for that. I'm writing that down. I'm gonna use it.
Excellent. Let's get back to Thomas. You should be able to unmute, and you have. What's your question, Thomas?
Well, I'm a sort of a neighbor of hers. I live in Rockford, and my congressman is Eric Sorensen. In fact, I called up his number in Washington because I had a little bit of a bone to pick with him, but because he voted in favor of restoring Pfizer, one of those kind of things. But there was about 40 Democrats that voted for that. But
What's your question for Patty, Thomas?
well, that's basically it. I just kind of wanted to say hello. So
Oh, hello, Thomas. Thank you. And know that as a neighbor, I'm gonna try to push the other delegation on some of these issues, and hopefully, a little gentle nudge here and there won't hurt.
Excellent. And okay, John, boom, go ahead. What's your question, John? Type.
Well, first I want to say Happy Mother's Day to Patty. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
And I want to know what is being done about the war on drugs, because more and more people are getting incarcerated for marijuana. What is being done? And I mean, it's 2026, and yet people are still getting incarcerated for cannabis. What is being done to stop that?
So there's been an ongoing fight at the federal level to decriminalize marijuana. I know that I'm a supporter of it. Illinois is a state that has decriminalized marijuana, and we've also tried to ensure that we have a safe distribution of it and ensuring that we have equitable access to vendorship license, growing licenses, transportation licenses. And yes, there are a lot of people that are still incarcerated for, minor marijuana possession. So at the federal level, it has been a very, very slow in terms of the progress. This is something that I do want to continue to champion, like Congressman Garcia has, decriminalization of marijuana, and ensuring that we expunge any records for folks that have been penalized because of it.
Thank you so much, Patty. And Peter has the last question. Boom. What you got, Peter? Peter going once. You should be able to unmute. Peter going twice. Unmute yourself, Peter. The wonderful world of technology. You can always email the email address that Patty put into the chat there, Peter, and we can take care of it that way. Looking like, and we are at almost 3 minutes past overtime here. So thank you so much, Patty, for taking this time with us. Closing comments for us.
I just want to say thank you all. If your moms are still alive, hug them, call them, send them a message. If they're not, send them a message in heaven. I think very, very pointed. I want to point to close on today, and also get involved, encourage others, volunteer if you've got time. Please follow our campaign, Patty for Illinois, and help us turn back the House to Democrats, and a big blue wave coming for us. So thank you all for your time. Keep organizing.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Manny, her campaign manager, who helped facilitate this. Y'all rock.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, gang. Now, she did her job. How about that? How about that? Did she do her job or what? Okay, let's see some love there, and let's hit that link in the chat right now. Pile on. If you want to see this woman make it into Congress, hit that link, hit that link, hit that link, and give all that you can. And we're about 3 minutes past our normal thank you period. I will do some quick shout out thank yous, and then we get to Mike Olis and Scott Houldieson, another great candidate. I want to thank the following people who have donated today thus far. I want to thank Valerie and Mark and phone banker Mary, double doing, and Bob out in Missouri, our state chapter coordinator, and phone banker Betsy, double doing, phone banker Carol, who's not only phone banking, helping us here co-hosting, and oh, by the way, in her spare time is the West Virginia state chapter lead. And she's got, we got an endorsed candidate in her area with an election on Tuesday. So gang, I'm saying thank you to all the donors right now, but we need folks on the phones as well. Go to pdamerica.org/volunteer. Thank you, Carol. Likewise, thank you, phone banker Caroline out in California, and phone banker Michael in Ohio. These phone bankers are double doing it, gang. Everybody who isn't phone banking, show some solidarity with these phone bankers that are double doing here. And phone banker Newland out of Chicago, and Caroline again, she's triple doing by donating twice. And Thomas and Beth, Dr. Bill, Dr. Leslie, who's phone banking with us as well. She's double doing. Michael, who phone banks with us, double doing. Cheryl, Quincy, and Erica, and phone banker Erica, and phone banker Ron, and phone banker Dr. Sonnenborn, and phone banker William, and phone banker Beverly. Look at all these phone bankers who are just carrying us today. And Dorothy, thank you, Dorothy, out in California, for your more than kind $100 donation. Gang, if anybody can match or beat that, I know that it would make Dorothy smile. She's our largest donor today, and she's normally our largest donor. Thank you so much, Dorothy. And phone banker Mary's in the house donating, and Michael up in Chicago, who starts us off every week here with his more than kind $5 donation. So thank you all, everybody. Nail those links. Likewise, if you didn't hear it at the top of the show, if you're in California, our PDA California crew is holding a Zoom all about what's going on in California, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Mike Fowler will be tossing that link into the chat again, so we all need to shift over there after we wrap here, but stick with us because we got Scott Houldieson coming up, and he's a rock star. And that should do for the to-dos right now. Let's get to Mike Olis and our tremendous state senate candidate, Scott Houldieson. Mike.
Hey, Mike Fox. Good to hear your voice, as always, every Sunday. And for those who are here for the first time, every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, we gather, huddle up as a progressive movement and talk about the road ahead. We just heard from Patty Garcia running for Congress in Chicago. She does have an opponent this fall, even though it is a deep blue seat. So we want to make sure she wins. But then I want to go right down the road from the Illinois 4th District in a little village, go about 10 miles south and a little bit to the east. And we're going to hit Scott Houldison's district in Indiana, in Northwest Indiana. And Scott Houldison is really kind of what PDA is all about, because Scott actually started his own PDA chapter back in, I think, 2019, 2018, and, is a rank and file union member, works the floor at the Chicago Ford Assembly, UAW member. And when Scott said that his union wasn't strong enough, he got involved and transformed the union. So if you see somebody like Sean Fain running around the country telling us to eat the rich, Scott Houldison was doing it way, way before that was a popular slogan, and really being a voice of progress on the shop floor in the community in Northwest Indiana. And now he's on the verge of becoming a state senator. And Indiana made huge news this week. Here in Indianapolis, the progressive movement showed that we're on the verge of taking over Indianapolis. In Northwest Indiana and across the state, there were a bunch of districts that had Republicans who had voted against Trump's gerrymandering plan. And Trump went on the attack against his Republicans and wiped most of them out, including Scott's opponent. So Scott is going to be facing this November, one of the most important state Senate races in the country, because the guy that he's going up against is a complete Trump idiot, Trump MAGA idiot. And Scott can win this race. This is a very winnable race. And so Scott Houldieson, I don't mean to call your opponent an idiot, but sorry about that. But Scott Houldieson, how's it going up there in Highland, Indiana today? And happy Mother's Day to your wife, Vicky, and to your family. And hopefully you've had a good day so far.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you for PDA for leading the charge. And I want to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day. You're taking time away from your families to be here, and we should appreciate that and really understand the sacrifice that you're making. It was great seeing Patty on here just before. I met Patty at the Haymarket where President Fain was speaking. In fact, I helped facilitate her getting to meet President Fain and have a little conversation. I know she's looking for some UAW endorsements and helping to fund her campaign. I'm looking for the same thing. To my race, here in Northwest Indiana, I helped start a PDA chapter in is like 2016. It kind of grew out of the Bernie campaign. There were several of us in Northwest Indiana that were big Bernie supporters, and we parlayed that into a PDA chapter, and we fought to stop the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and we went on the attack against some gun legislation that was going on in Indiana, and a whole bunch of other issues that were coming out of the start of the Trump administration, after a couple of years of chairing that chapter, I started working on getting corruption out of my union, the UAW. We had a deep corruption scandal, and that corruption scandal ended up netting federal charges against a dozen high-ranking union members, including two presidents of the International Union. Out of that, we fought to get direct elections. We wanted democracy in our union, and the way union officials were elected was delegates would get to go to a convention and choose who was going to be the top leadership in the union. So we fought for direct elections and won a referendum vote by a 2-to-1 margin. But then we recruited candidates to run nationwide for International Executive Board, and we ended up sweeping the elections in that, and that's how we got President Shawn Fain to be leading the charge in the labor movement for working class issues. It's been a long time since we've heard labor leaders talk about working class. There have been some, notably in the Chicago Teachers Union, that were an inspiration for me. But here in Indiana, you may well know that we have a lot of, we've had a supermajority of Republicans controlling our state legislature for 20 years. And this time, I'm running to bring working class values to our state government, which has been captured by corporate interests. So that's my race is one part of that, and it's an important part. It's a very flippable seat, but the incumbent, who was one of the 15 or 20 Republicans in the state Senate that chose to vote against redistricting, which was the right choice. He got punished by Trump, and there were millions of dollars that flowed into this election, into the primary elections to unseat these, Republicans that voted their conscience. To be honest with you, they did the right thing, and they got punished for it. But that opens an opportunity for progressive Democrats, for progressive working class candidates to step up and flip many of these seats and hopefully break at least the supermajority, if not the majority, in the Indiana legislature. This is going to be a good year for us, and I'm hopeful that we can win the state Senate back, the state House back, and start to make changes in Indiana for the better for working class people. In Indiana, we have our minimum wage is tied to the federal minimum wage of $7.25, and there's nobody that can survive on that kind of salary. But beyond that, for people that are out of work through no fault of their own, they get laid off or their plant closes down, our unemployment benefits are some of the lowest in the nation. I'm fortunate to work on the Illinois side of the border. I work for Ford Chicago Assembly Plant, been there for 37 years, been a leader in my local union, and continue to be a leader in my local union. But when I get laid off, my unemployment benefits are about double what they are in Indiana. And, that's just not right. Indiana has sold out, the Republican Congress has sold out to corporate interests. And, that's what we need to do, is to break that grip of the corporate interests in our politics. And I heard Patty talking a little bit about this earlier, but money in politics is really damaging to our society. And we need to find ways to, curb that money in politics or eliminate it altogether. I believe in public financing for elections, but, that's not the reality that we have right now. So the reality that we have right now is that $19 million flowed into state Senate races in the primary election. Is the Trump administration going to spend that much to try and protect those seats now that he's ousted so many of the incumbents? That remains to be seen. And if we do get it, then it's going to be a lot of really nasty attack ads that we're going to have to be facing down. So,
and Scott, just want to hop in here real quick, because this is the race where we're going to have a true Bernie working class progressive versus a Trump loving Christian nationalist, corporate sellout Republican, right? So this is going to be like a showdown of showdowns, and you're not the favorite, but you're almost a favorite, right? Like, this is a working class district that they know when the working class hero shows up against a working class zero, the hero is going to win, right? And so we got some work to do, but this is a race that is going to be polarized. But you have the record, you have the vision, and this is us as a progressive movement. This is our race that we can win this and take out a terrible Republican who will be a terrible Republican in the Senate, and replace it with somebody who's literally going to be the Bernie Sanders of Indiana. So, let's think about that for a second, Scott.
Yeah, the contrast couldn't be more stark. Between me and my MAGA opponent. But let's be realistic here. Getting Bernie type of values through Indiana legislature and then past the governor's desk is a monumental feat. We have a lot of work to do in Indiana. I'm one part of the puzzle, and it takes people rising up. So it's not just we talk about elections and the importance of elections, and they are vital. But in between elections, and I know PDA does a lot of great work in between elections because I've been involved with it, right? But in between elections is when the real work gets done, and we have to really put pressure on if we don't get a majority in the legislature, we need to put pressure on those folks that are holding us back from having the working class values that are going to help working families live a better life. So those are, it's going to take groups like PDA in Indiana and PDA National, Hold and Indivisible. And, I'm a big fan of coalition building. So we need to bring in the faith community and everyone to bring about social justice values and protecting workers, protecting people over profits. And that's the message that has to be hammered home time and time again in between elections. So, I'm going to need all the help I can get in this election, but then we need all the help we can get to continue in between elections to really change what Indiana means for working families.
And look, Indiana is a working class state through and through. It's just a lot of us have lost our way, and have been lied to and have believed the lies, right? But we know in Bernie won Indiana in 2016. When Obama was at his height in 2008 during the economic crisis, Indiana voted for Obama, right? And you're going back to that era. You bring such a good point. My daughter was born in 2008, right before the election that August, and I thought, man, we've got to figure it out. Indiana is going to go blue. We're going to keep organized. I was talking to Patty about my roots in Chicago organizing. I met Obama back in the late 90s and early 2000s. I thought that he was going to live up truly true to his progressive organizing credentials. And then the Republicans went on the march and the attack, and the Democrats disappeared basically. And so, Scott, let's win your seat. I can't wait to hang out with you in Indianapolis, when the Senate is in session. And but we got a lot of work to do between now and then. And then, like you said, long term, we got to keep organized in these red states, because all these red states are working class states. They've just lost their way, and we've got to show them there's another way out besides MAGAism and Christian nationalism and just bootlicking the corporations. So we got some work to do.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. I'll go ahead and drop the link to my website in the chat. You can also follow me on Facebook. The Facebook page is well, I have to go recopy the website, but the Facebook page is Scott, the number 4, Senate, and you can that's where you can find out more about our campaign and follow along. And I got the website into the chat. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. But I want to respect the time of folks that have sacrificed their time to be on here today on this Mother's Day, so that they can go spend some time with their families.
Yeah, but we're going to meet my mom here in about 30 minutes. And I know some folks have dinner plans tonight, and we have the big California meeting here pretty quickly too. But Mike Fox, any questions for us out there? Anybody else want to chime in? William Walter doing some, anybody else want to chime in here before we wrap up and kick it over to our final words tonight?
Yeah, just real quick, Scott. My apologies if I missed it. Number one, I'm absolutely pumped that you're running. What was the final nudge? Why?
Well, the final nudge was the fact that I've been advocating for working class people to get involved in politics. I've been involved in politics for a while as an activist, and that's probably why I got asked to run. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Let it go to voicemail. It was the executive director for the Indiana Senate Democratic Caucus, and he wanted to know my opinion of Senate District 1. I said, yeah, I'm going to have an opinion of Senate District 1. I'll call this guy back. What he really wanted to know is would I run for state senator? And come to find out, he was turned on to me because of my work in PDA, organizing in Northwest Indiana. And then when he looked a little deeper, he learned about the work I've been doing in the UAW to help make the UAW a fighting union once again, a militant fighting force for working class people.
Nice. So this now I won't ask you to answer that question in public. I'll give you a call at some point. Just something about how helpful have they been? But yeah, I'm not going to put you on that. I'm not going to put you on the spot on that. So let's one other question. When you get there, have you identified a committee you want to be on?
Well, definitely labor and pensions.
There we go.
Other than that, I'm gonna, it's gonna be all new to me, so I'm gonna take some advice from some folks that have been there. Senator Rodney Pohl is one that I've been learning a lot from. He's a advocate for labor in Northwest Indiana over in Porter County. And
Nice.
so, I'll take his advice on some of those things, but definitely I want to get involved with labor and pensions.
No surprise there. All right. Scott was kind enough to suggest to us that we need to be focusing on our family. I'll make one pass at. Anybody have a question for Scott before we let him get to his family? William or anybody else in the crowd here? Okay, Carly, you're going to get a question here, sister. Make it quick. Boom. What you got, sister?
On the subject of Mother's Day, don't you think that it would be much more economically and socially appropriate for working moms to be paid 10 times as much as their male counterparts for the same work so they wouldn't have to work a full-time job?
Well, I'm an advocate for wages to go up considerably. So, in short, yes. But I also believe in equity. So, I'm a working class person, but mothers, especially on Mother's Day, deserve all of our gratitude. And, they definitely have been left behind for decades now. So, we need to put policies in place that are going to make, it easier for women to be in the workforce and to earn what their male counterparts have been earning for a long time.
Well, awesome. Well, Scott, we're making the endorsement. Our state organization, the Progressives for Democracy in America, is making an endorsement for Scott. This is not the last time you'll be with us as we get ready for November, and we've got to build this progressive machine across the state of Indiana, up in Illinois, Wisconsin, the whole country. Right, we're building this progressive machine, and so let's go off. Let's do this hard work, and let's win some big elections coming up later this year. And congratulations on your primary victory. I know you didn't have an opponent, but now we know that you are against one of the worst people in Indiana politics, and we've got to beat him. So thank you so much, Scott, and thank you to everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, and I did get more primary votes than my my opponent did. So we're looking good going into November.
Let's do it. And thank you, Scott. We'll be in touch. And everybody, if you know anybody in Northwest Indiana, if you can make a donation, let's get this done. So do you want to take it away, Mike Fox, and take us on out of here?
Righto. I want to thank everybody for being with us here. We're going to shut down the recording so that YouTube is happy. We'll get this done in an hour and a half. I'm still going to stick around. We're going to have a family time immediately afterwards and for all the folks on YouTube, sign up on Zoom because then you too can be a part of family time with all the cool kids. I want to thank Donna Smith for standing in for Alan today. Likewise, William for helping us co-host. Likewise, Mike. Likewise, Carol for helping us behind the scenes here. Everybody, each and every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. We are here, be here or be nowhere. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. We will stop the recording for YouTube.